Good evening, my friends, and welcome to this video. Well, today it's a video in a little different kind of video because I'm actually doing an interview of a person on the other side of the Atlantic, actually all the way out on the Pacific side of the US in Arizona, right? Well, my friend, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Wells, and I've lived nomadically for quite a while. And I became aware of Lars and admire him and the work he's doing. And so we agreed to share videos. And I'm very glad to be here with you.
I'm glad that you are here. Obviously, Bob is the organizer of the RTR in the US, which was my inspiration for the RTM that you, my viewers, know about. So right here in front of you, you have my inspiration for the gathering that I've organized 2 times. And Bob, how long have you been a nomad?
Well, it breaks down into two different sections. For 6 years, I lived in a van back starting in the 90s. And then I lived in a house for a while, hated every second of it. And then I finally got back into living in a van in 2008, and I've lived continuously in a van or a vehicle of some kind since 2008. So 12 years continuously and 6 years before then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's quite a long time. What made you, in the first place, what made you decide to become a van dweller?
Well, originally I was forced into it, and that's actually a fairly common story in the United States. Where I was forced into it, I was going through a divorce, and I couldn't afford to maintain two households. So as we were going through the divorce, and that's very, very expensive in itself. And I was now all of a sudden, there was the house my ex-wife lived in and the house I lived in, and I was paying a lot of money to her, and I couldn't afford to pay for my own house, so I moved into a van. And initially, I hated it. I was forced into it. I felt, and there's the emotional trauma of going through a divorce at any rate. And then you add on top of that being forced into living in a van, and it was a very bad time in my life. But it was very quickly that I fell in love with it. And I loved the freedom. I loved the smallness of it, the freedom, going where I wanted to go, when I wanted to go, just, exactly like you, Lars. I mean, I know your story, and somehow it just speaks to our heart in the exact same way. It's just something about it we love. So yeah, I fell in love with it.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, it is, the whole freedom part of it is just yeah, you can't describe it really, but it's just, we can't be without it.
Yes,
So
I feel that way now.
Exactly. So you're living in a van. What kind of van is it you
It's a cargo in the U.S. We would call it. It's a Chevrolet GMC. It's the manufacturer, and in the United States we'd call it a cargo van, work van. So it has big side doors, and this one came without anything on the walls, no windows. It's a work van, and I found that very easy because was down to the bare walls to convert it into a home. I insulated it and put in everything I wanted. So it's just a work van standard.
Yeah.
And in the United States, we have, our vans are quite different than yours, although we've changed and now our vans are exactly like yours. But this is an older van, and so it's a little different. It's a low top, although you have low tops too. It looks different, and it's got a big American V8. America is the home of bigger and better. Bigger is always better, and so it's got a great big American V8, and it's a little different van, but it's the same principle. I live in 60 square feet.
Yeah. Well, not many people can afford a big V8 in Denmark because they would use a lot of diesel or gasoline, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's great. I guess how big is it? I guess it's bigger on the outside also, or the inside for that matter. Than how wide is it?
It's only 6 foot.
Well,
What would
yeah.
that be? About roughly 2 meters.
Mm,
And so no, that's about what your vans are.
yeah,
About 2 meters.
I guess so.
Yeah. Now, of course, the smaller vans, I guess, like in the U.S., we have Ford makes a Transit, and then the smaller version of the Transit, or the Sprinter is doing it now too. Also, the full
Yeah.
size Sprinter with the 3 sizes and lengths,
Mm,
and then a smaller one. I think they call it a City. Well, I don't know what they call it in Europe, but so they have a little tiny, and those are like 5 feet across. And we
yeah.
have those as well,
Mm,
or which would be what, 2.5, 1.5 meters, something like that.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not all that small. It's fairly long. The total length is 20 feet about, and so that would be 3 sixes would be 18, a little over 6 meters, 6.5
Yeah.
meters.
Yeah. Exactly. In Europe, we are very careful that we want our vehicles to be less than 6 meters, because when you go on a ferry or across a bridge, a toll road bridge, you have to pay, and if it's less than 6 meters, then it's considered being a normal vehicle. Then it's if it's more than 6 meters, it costs more. So a lot of people who have the bicycle rack on the back, when they want to cross a bridge, they stop at a rest area, take the bicycle rack inside the van, and then they cross the bridge because the
Oh, wow.
bicycle rack makes it more than 6 meters. So
Right. So I'm sure I'm closer to 19 or 20 feet, which would be more than 6 meters.
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. So but yeah, a lot of different vehicles, and of course, my viewers, they know that from the RTM, I made videos I made pictures of all the vans that were there, and there were some big and some small, so it's a big variation there too. But right now you're parked in Arizona, right?
Yes, I am.
In the desert?
No, the desert's still much too hot yet. It hasn't cooled down. The desert would be, I can't make the conversion to Celsius.
No, it's okay. I can do that after.
I can do meter. No, it would be very, very hot, unbearably hot in a van.
Mm,
So I am in. The great thing about most of the United States is this enormous variety. So it
yeah,
can be in the desert at 100 degrees today, and
yeah.
I'm up in the higher country where I'm in big trees, and it'll probably get up to maybe, the number doesn't mean anything to you, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which is
Mm,
a pleasant day.
yeah, exactly. That's like summer temperatures here, but yeah, I get it. Um, oh, that's nice, and I know a lot of van dwellers in the US. They kind of chase the comfortable temperatures, and because the place is so big, you can just drive to a place where the temperature is right. Um, and I guess we can do that in Europe too, though not if you have a job in a fixed location. Then
Yeah.
I kind of have to stay in Denmark for the winter. So, but that's fine. It's no problem. Do you have any kind of heating in your vehicle actually?
Well, as you mentioned, I do travel with the seasons, and I do not. We in the U.S. we like the phrase snowbird.
Yeah.
Um, the the waterfowl that move with the seasons. A lot of birds move with the seasons,
Yeah.
and so we move with the seasons. And the desert, while it gets unbearably hot in the summer, is usually pretty comfortable over the winter. And
Mm.
so I don't have heat. I do have a cook stove, and I will use the cook stove periodically to add some heat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not for long periods of time, and of course, never
No.
overnight. I have to be there watching it, but
Mm.
I will use my cook stove for some heat.
Yeah. Of course.
So your Denmark's pretty cold Copenhagen.
Well,
So
not as cold as it used to be, but yeah, it's cold-ish. But I got the diesel heater, so it's not a problem.
Did you get a Chinese diesel heater, or did you get one of the good ones?
No, actually, I have an Espascha, a German one.
So that's right.
It's kind of pricey, but I was thinking, well, I need something that I can trust, exactly as to say, well, it is cold in wintertime, so need something that is reliable. Even though I know a lot of people who bought those Chinese heaters, and I don't know anyone who had problems with them. So, well,
right. Just because it's from China doesn't mean it's bad.
No, exactly.
They put out a lot of good products.
Exactly. So, but yeah, a lot of my van dwelling friends use the Chinese models, and they like it. So
yeah, and they're so much cheaper.
Oh yeah, a lot cheaper. But Bob, speaking of money, how do you make a living?
Well, in the U.S., I'm on Social Security, which would be you have the equivalent safety net. It's a government pension. I worked all my life and paid into, and so I get a government pension. I also, the United States relies much more on private pensions, and so I have I was a union member, and so I have a pension from my union, and of course I make some money on YouTube and online, and so that's how I support myself.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's you can do that, the pension thing, because you are retired.
Right.
Yeah.
I got gray hair.
just a little bit more than me, yeah. In general, a little bit more hair than me. So when you first started out with this kind of lifestyle, how did friends and family react to that?
Pretty well. I know a lot of my friends say their family are horrified and really dislike it, but I didn't run into that. It was different. I spent most of my life in Alaska, the state of Alaska, and Alaskans have a different attitude than the United States. As a rule, is a very independent, rebellious place. Well, you could argue that Europe sent its most rebellious, independent people to settle America, and here we are. We're very independent, rebellious people. And you could then say that in America, the most rebellious and independent of the really real rebellious and independent went to Alaska. And so there's this attitude in Alaska, well, you live your life any way you want to. And that's what I ran into the most was, wow. and Alaska is also a very outdoorsy camping, hunting, fishing place. And so the idea, basically, when I said, I'm going to live in my van and go camping the rest of my life, most of my friends were envious. That appealed to them because they went camping every weekend. They went out and set up a tent. And I said, well, I'm going to have a rolling steel tent. I didn't have to set up a tent anymore. And they could see the wisdom in that. And and even my family, it wasn't much of a problem. But Alaska is a very different attitude than probably most of the world.
Yeah, I believe that. So, and I guess about living in a vehicle, I know there's a lot of people who do it in the US. And as you say, a lot of them have been forced into it, but also now people start to realize that that is a way of living and it's a good way of living. So more and more people do it as a choice. And of course, I know you meet a lot of that category of people, both at your gathering, but also in general when you park different places. So
yes, it's a real mixed group. Large group that are forced into it. We don't have the safety net that Europe offers. So you can get old and not be able to survive in America. And the only way to survive is to move into vehicle. Yeah. But also there's a large group that just, this is the choice they made first, and they could change if they wanted to, but this is what they prefer.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of those people are digital nomads and
Yes.
making a living online. Or
Here, there's a lot of younger people, the younger generation, 20s and 30s. And I think that after the economic crash of 2008, it became apparent that a lot of the promises society had made, especially in the US, were simply not going to come true. I don't think that's true of Europe, but in the US, for one thing, one of the things that happened in 2008 is the corporations just said, well, we can't afford to pay pensions anymore. And they stopped. There were no more pensions. So here were all these people and worked all their lives for a pension, and it was just gone. Or they had all their money in their house, and their house had kept going up in value, and all of a sudden their house was worthless, and they couldn't even keep it, and were on the street. It really tarnished what we call the American dream, the idea of American exceptionalism, and we're all going to be wealthy and happy. And that was obviously not true. And I think a lot of young people gave up on it, on the American dream, and said, no, I'm going to live my own life independently. And so that's really true in America. I see a lot of that here.
So if you want a dream, you have to create it yourself.
You do.
Yeah.
And you can't depend on anything else.
No, exactly. That's
more than anything, you have to modify the dream. The dream can't be the big house, the white picket fence. I work hard all my life and then I get it at the end. And I think what a lot of young people are saying is to live your good life now, preparing as best as you can for the future.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't have time to wait for that dream to begin. I want the dream now.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So about your gathering, obviously I'm kind of curious about it because, well, I'm trying to somehow copy it a little bit, doing a
good job.
Well, thank you. How did you come up with the idea of a gathering?
Well, America is a huge place, and you can be completely alone. As if you want to be alone and not see another human being, you can easily do that. I could drive 15 minutes from where I am now and be somewhere and not see another human being. I can do that any time across the western part of the U.S. And so we tended, as a group, we tended to be very individualistic and loners and be out alone.
Yeah.
And there wasn't, for the nomads that were out here, there wasn't really a way to connect with each other. And so I wanted to have, and I appreciate being alone, and I want to be alone, but I don't want to always be alone. I want to have community, and I want to have people around me, and with the amazing wonders of modern technology, we can be alone and have people in our lives, but I want to be face to face with people. And so the goal was really to bring people together physically, and really it remains the goal. And like you, I taught, we had classes and we had new people who came and learned, but it was mostly just about making friends so that you had a friend and you could write them and stay in touch. And if you needed help, you could find someone to help you. And if your friend needed help, you could help them. And it was about community. And,
exactly.
So that really was the whole motivation, just bringing us together.
Yeah. Creating a tribe.
That really was it.
Yeah. It's funny because I've been thinking about why I organize the RTM, and actually there's one story that covers 100% why I do it, and that is that just last year, the first RTM, there was a guy in an old Mercedes van who came to the gathering, and he had emailed me if it was okay that he would just come one day and he would just stay one day, one night, and then he would leave again. And this year he told me that when he came to the gathering last year, he didn't know anyone who lived in a van, and he was kind of alone, and he just wanted to see what it was all about, if there was anyone else who were doing it and stuff. And he ended up staying the whole week, and now he's the admin of a group for van dwellers in the Netherlands with more than 3,000 members, and he's the admin of the group, And he was the loner. He was the one who didn't know anyone, and now he's dead smack in the middle of it, And that was 100% because of my gathering. So I was like, well, that's why I do it, And I guess somehow it's the same thing about bringing people together. It's the important part of it.
I sometimes I think of myself as this creating community is like creating a hub, a wheel with spokes. And my job is only to be the empty space at the hub of the spokes. And the success is when the spokes connect, and become merge into being a one instead of individual spokes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, it's funny because that is exactly why it works, because we just, and I see that with my Facebook group as well, that just having the group, I don't really have to do much, because just the fact that the hub is there, then people connect, and just because they have the space to do it, then they will then the whole tribe, the whole community will just build from that, and that is amazing. Yeah. And then, of course, I've watched a lot of your videos. I won't say I've watched all of them, because that would be impossible. I think
that's a lot.
It is, but I've watched a lot of your videos, and I know you do a lot of what is it called, product review and stuff, and also videos about how should you keep warm, how should you cook your food, or not how should you, but how can you, and all kinds of different things like that. And I think that's very helpful. I know it's given me some good advice, and I would say to my viewers, I will put a link to Bob's channel, and I know you got some different kinds of social media. Maybe you should mention that, and then I will put the links in the bottom. What kind of social medias do you have?
Well, I am on Facebook, and I do have an Instagram channel, and of course YouTube, and a website, and they're all Cheap RV Living.
Okay.
So if you look up Cheap RV Living anywhere, I'll be there. And the website is cheaprvliving.com.
So if any of my European viewers, or for that matter, I have a lot of US viewers. I have a lot of viewers in America and also. So if any of you would be interested in watching some of Bob's videos or Instagram or whatever, then I will put links in the bottom of or underneath the video here. So when you stay in the well, now for now I know you're in a little bit higher elevation, but how long can you stay out in the boons at the time before you have to go back and restock and get water and whatever you need?
Well, in the U.S., we have a lot of public land, and it's owned by the federal government. But of course, the federal government's owned by the people, so it's open and available to everyone to use. That's U.S. public lands, but it almost always has a limit of 14 days. You must move every 14 days, otherwise you've overstayed and you can't stay that long. So I'm boondocking on public land right now, and I could not stay more than 14 days. I rarely am out 14 days, because I physically could stay out that long but I'm not really comfortable staying out that long. I will prefer to be in town, oh, every 5 or 6 days, not even a week, probably 5 or 6 days. I'm ready to go into town. I carry enough water to go 14, but I don't generally carry all of it. So I need to go in and get rid of trash, buy some more fresh foods.
Yeah.
So not very long. I don't boondock for very long at a time. 5 or 6 days would be pretty normal.
Yeah. How much water do you carry? Because obviously that is a limit. That is kind of put a limit to how long we can stay out.
Well, I do carry a water filter. In fact, I'll have a video coming out on water filters. They're
Okay.
an abundance and of high quality water filters for reasonable prices.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has a lot of water you can go out here and just find. And if you filter it, you are good to go almost indefinitely. Some places it's harder than others, but somewhere you can probably find water you can filter. But I just carry my own. I have the capacity about 15 gallons, and I usually only carry about 10.
Okay. And yeah, for my European friends, I know 1 gallon is approximately 4 liter. So
correct.
That's a lot of water, and that's a lot of weight.
It is, which is why I'm running around with empty capacity, because there's just no point in carrying all the extra weight that I don't need.
Exactly. Because
but it's there if I do need it. If I do need to go out and stay longer, I can have it and carry it with me if I need it then.
Yeah.
Right, and I have a dog, and he drinks a pretty amazing amount of water. He's going to drink half a gallon a day.
Oh yeah,
so
obviously that's a thing.
And I don't have access to a shower, so I'm bathing with my own water that I'm carrying with me. So those make it up a little higher.
Obviously, yeah. Yeah, it is actually remarkable. I heard that they found out that an average Dane use 120 liter of water every day for normal life. 120 liter divided with 4. That's then you got it in gallon, but that's a lot of water. When I think about, I use 3 gallons for a week. Then of course.
Well, that points to one of the things I think that is best about the living in a van is its impact on the environment. I think it's a dramatic improvement to the earth and our impact on the earth by living in a van. And that's a big reason, the amount of water we're not using. I assume you're generating your own electricity. You have solar.
Yeah.
So you're not burning coal or natural gas or whatever you're burning. And you're just creating a tiny little bit that you need and nothing more. So I think it has a huge impact, positive impact on the environment. And that's one of the reasons why, and more we'll see that that's a big reason to live in a van.
Yeah, exactly. Our environmental footprint is so much smaller, even though I'm driving a diesel vehicle. That kind of, but still, yeah.
It's still better.
As opposed
to being in the house.
As I used to say to people when they start to talk about the environmental thing and driving a diesel vehicle and living in it, that the thing is, while my friends, they go to work, they still have a house or an apartment where the temperature stays on 22 degrees until they come back home. When I go to work, I park my house outside in the parking lot, and it's not using any energy. Quite the contrary. It's actually creating energy while I'm working. And then when I come back outside and drive away, I use some energy for driving, but then I park somewhere nearby, and then I don't use anything anymore. So it makes a difference for sure. For sure it does. So as you say, the whole environmental impact is a big advantage as well. So Bob, we just been through and still in a very bad situation with the whole COVID virus and all that. How have that affected your life?
Well, I'm what we call a boondocker in the United States, and that means I don't live in a town. I live on public land, and I don't live in a campground. I don't pay money. It's not a developed campground. I just find a place and pull over and park. And that was not impacted by COVID at all. The campgrounds were. Any campgrounds closed. So had I been a person who stayed in a campground, paid and developed, I would have been really impacted. I don't know what I would have done. But because it did not impact public lands, boondocking, it had no impact on me. You know, in fact, while most people were confined to their homes and couldn't even hardly go outside for a walk, I went outside for a walk just like I did every day because there was no one around me.
No, exactly.
Or the few people that were around me were family. You know, they were community.
Yeah.
And we weren't, there was no possibility of transmission between us. So it had no real impact on my life at all. I was still able to drive into town and get supplies, get water, dump my trash, buy groceries when I needed to, because that never closed.
No.
The grocery stores never closed. So it didn't have any negative impact on me at all. In fact, in some ways, it had a positive impact. I went for a long drive. The roads were still open, and they never closed the roads here. And there was no one else on the road. So when I am on the road, which wasn't very often, but I did go for one long trip to be with a friend. And it was easier because there was no one on the road. It had no negative impact on me at all.
No, exactly. No. Yeah.
And I think that nomadic living, with all the changes that are coming with the environment in particular, with the sea levels, so much and so many devastating things are coming, that people who can just leave and move and go somewhere better are going to be better off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that simple.
Yeah. It's funny because I talked to my daughter about that. My daughter, I'm not going to mention where she lived, but she lived on the west coast of the US somewhere. And of course, in connection with all the forest fires that you just had in that area,
Yes.
they were told to be ready to evacuate. They weren't told to evacuate, but they were told, get ready, because it will happen. And my daughter and I, we were talking about, if she was living in a van, she would just, everything would be ready. And I guess that's the case for you. Everything is ready. You just need to close the door and drive off.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the big advantages about our lifestyle, that we can just, turn key and go.
Right. I was in Oregon, and Oregon was terribly devastated by some wildfires, and they're still going on. And there was a little town just within 10 miles of, I was in Oregon staying with my mother and my sister. My mother is ill. And so I spend a lot of time there with her. And so I spent the whole summer there, and they had this devastating wildfire. In fact, this little town, I'd driven, it's within 10 miles of her house. We were watching the airplanes flying over and dumping the fire retardant. And so within 10 miles of our house, this town burned down. It's just gone. The town doesn't exist anymore. It's just charred remains. And this is a place I've driven through and I know and drove by it once a week, and it's just suddenly gone because of no other reason than global climate change.
Exactly.
The temperature, the difference in the temperatures, the difference in the water, the rainfall patterns. Those are the things. There's always wildfires, but there have never been wildfires like this.
No.
And so the idea of your neighboring town just burns down and it doesn't exist, that has not been a problem before.
No.
That's going to be a much, much worse problem in the future.
So, Bob, the RTR Rubber Tramp Rendezvous that you organize, as you say, in the beginning it was rather small, 30, 60 people. How big was it the last time?
Well, it's changing. The largest gathering, which was 2 years ago, was a good 10,000.
Wow.
There were a good 10,000 people there. And we've been holding them on public land so they can be free.
Yeah.
There were costs, but we just absorbed the costs of putting it together and asked people to donate if they could, and people did. But that's gotten so large that the agencies that run the public land of the United States are obviously trying to keep us out. And I think they've succeeded. We're not going to be able to do that on public land. So I think the era of the huge gatherings is maybe over. We don't know what we're going to do. We'll either have to pay and rent a very large area, which would be very expensive, or possibly buy, and this is the goal right now, buy a piece of land and put the event itself, which is not very big, on private land, and then we can camp on public land. So it'll still be free.
Yeah.
That is the current future, and that may include limiting the size. So we'll do a virtually free ticket, but you have to have a ticket to come, and we'll do multiples of them. So instead of having one 10,000 people gathering, there will be 3,000 people gatherings, something like that. So we're in a state of flux. In the United States, we have something called Burning Man. Is that something Europeans are familiar with?
Yeah. Well, we know of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it started exactly the same way, as a small gathering on a beach in San Francisco, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then they went to public land, and now it's 80,000 and more people.
Wow.
And they see Burning Man in us, and they're getting us under control now at 10,000. So, and I think they're right. Eventually, we would be as big as Burning Man or bigger, and so they're really strictly regulating us now.
Yeah.
And I think it's become impossible for us to do it on public land. So I don't know what the future is for it. We will continue to gather, but it's going to change in shape.
Yeah.
You know, you have a small group, and when I had a small group, it was no big deal. It was easy. Once you get into the multiple thousands, it's no longer easy.
No. And well, in Europe, it's not that easy, even with a small group, because we don't have public land that we can just use like that. So we had to do it in a camper spot where we paid for. But the way I did it was I told the owner of the camper spot that the whole money thing, that's your thing. I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to go around and ask people for the money. You take care of that, and then of course you make the profit. So, and he was all good about that. So that's the way I have to do it here. But obviously, well, next year if it grows to 120, still within possibility to find a spot for that. But yeah, as you say, when it grows bigger, it will be difficult. But I don't know. Let's see. We cross that bridge when we get to it. So
well, the biggest complaint now is it's too big. People don't want to come, and they're right. I mean, if you have 10,000 people, we're really packed in. It's huge desert, a lot of room, but it's intimidating. And so I think that maybe holding it down in smaller sizes, sell people a space for $10. They pay you $1, but they get the ticket, and they can't get in without the ticket.
No.
So then that limits how many people are physically there. Something, I don't know what. It's all up in the air what we're going to do. We're not doing it this year because it'll come over the winter. We do ours in January in the desert, and so who knows what's going to happen this January with COVID.
No, exactly. So this year there's not gonna be
we're still hoping.
Yeah.
We haven't written it off. There is a possibility, but at this point it doesn't look good.
No, exactly. Oh well, yeah. That's I was lucky with the RTM that exactly in August the well this year was in the Netherlands and it opened up and it was possible to do it. I was actually at first planned to do it in Germany, but Germany was still it was still not possible to do it in Germany in August. So we did it in Netherlands and could do that. Um,
Well, who knows? Maybe a vaccine will come out, and it will be possible.
yeah,
We're
exactly.
open to that happening and
Mm,
proceeding, but it will be, that seems unlikely.
yeah. So how many years you been organizing the RTR?
This will be the 11th.
The
Something
11th.
will happen
Okay.
this year. We will do a virtual RTR. We'll do
Mm,
classes over online.
exactly.
That will happen no matter what. We'll do webinar type classes,
Yeah.
but so this will be the 11th,
Uh-huh.
whatever
Yeah.
shape it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that would be neat because then I can actually participate.
You can be a teacher.
Well, I guess. Yeah.
5 years experience, so you could hold a class on van dwelling in Europe.
Yeah,
It'll
sure.
be on webinar, and so anyone could watch it anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Plan on it. You want to plan on it?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
I'm game. I'm game.
Yeah.
Sure thing. Sure thing. That would be neat.
Yeah. Good for us. Good for everyone.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Oops. That's the thing. We just have to get the best out of it, you know.
Mhm.
Whatever life throws at us, um, and whatever happens, if we always positive and ready for change, there's nothing that can tip our world really.
Yeah.
It's we just adjust. We adjust to whatever comes our way. Yeah. And I guess that is easier for people like us who don't have a fixed base because well, as they say in hard wind, the tree breaks and the bamboo bend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I've been thinking about with the RTR. It's so big. I for me, this year 60 people, and then when I think about next year, if it doubles again to 120, I'll start to be, anxious, and that's a lot of people. And actually, I'm kind of a introvert myself, and about 120 people, that's a lot of people, and I don't really feel that comfortable around that many people. How do you manage, Bob?
I have to be honest and say it's been hard. It's just I just grit my teeth and endure it. I mean, that's really all there is to say. It does good, and that's what's important. That's the only thing that's important.
Mm,
And it has now shifted away. 2 years ago, starting 3 years ago, this will be the fourth year. I brought in an assistant. I had a lady called Jude, and Jude, she's just a person who can run events. It's
yeah.
just in her blood. I don't know how she does it. I can't imagine how she does it. And
Mm,
so those were the when they started to get huge, and she did them all, and I could not have done them.
no.
And so now it's another group has taken it over, and I'm not very involved anymore.
No.
I've become less and less involved. Much less and less of it falls on me, and that had to happen because it was beyond. It was beyond my capacity,
Yeah.
and so at the right time, at the right time, the people came forward. Literally, Jude just
Mm,
came forward and said, "Hey, I can do this for you."
yeah.
And I said, "Okay, let's try." And she did. She did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
And so at the right time, the people came, and that's kind of the way I live my life. Is at the right time, the right situation, it'll take care of itself, and it did.
Mm, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm sure that'll happen for you too.
Well, yeah, for sure. Already I have for next year two of the people from the Dutch group have told me that they like to help me organize it, because they just this year they could see that it was a lot of work, and well, they came forward and said, let's lend you a hand. So yeah.
And we all have different skill sets, and mine is not putting together events. That's not a skill set I have.
No.
And yet for my friend Jude, it was a skill. It was as easy as getting out of bed in the morning. And so apparently for your new friends, it's pretty easy, and it's just great for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it can be very intimidating when it grows, and all of a sudden, you realize, oh wow, what have I created? It's just yeah. Oh, that's great. Another thing I would like to it's kind of in the same area, but now obviously you do have a lot of subscribers on your channel, and I know you stay most of the time out in the boons, whatever, a desert or mountains or wherever, but do you experience that people recognize you and come over and say hi and
Yeah, that's a regular part of my life. If I'm in an area where we tend to gather in certain areas because of, well, there's just some reason why it works. So when I go to in Arizona, there's a small town called Quartzsite, and it's a central hub for van dwellers and RVers, and I'll be recognized there just all constantly. But even out of the unusual places, I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona now, and there's a lot of RVers and van dwellers around Flagstaff because it's high and it's cool. It's only like 150 miles from Phoenix, which is 110 degrees today, probably. And here it'll be in the 80s Fahrenheit. And so if I can't spend much time in Flagstaff without being recognized. So yes, the bottom line is it's pretty common for me to be recognized. People want to visit for a bit.
Exactly. I actually just a few days ago had a guy who I stepped out of my minivan, and he was like, "It's you from YouTube." I was like, yeah. Can I take a selfie with you? Sure. So yeah, it happens, and
it does.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it. I don't know about you. Do you?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I'm just me.
Yeah. But and people think they're your friends. You don't know them. You don't know anything about them, but now they're pretty sure you're friends.
Yeah. No, I have it happen, and obviously at the gathering, it happens constantly that people come over and talk to me like we've known each other for years, and I'm like, yeah, sure, but who is it? Who exactly are you? And they're like, oh yeah, obviously you don't know me. No, that's true. But well, that's just part of it, and as you say, it is a good part of it. It's enjoyable.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, okay, Bob. I think right now I can't come up with any more questions for you, but I know in the future I will have plenty.
You can do this again.
Sure thing. Thank you very much for this chat. It's been very entertaining and informative, and I know that we are gonna talk again. And for my viewers, if you like to see some of Bob's videos or look at his website, or I'm gonna put links for all his different social media places in the description under this video. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and you guys take care, and remember, life is good. Bye-bye.